done is pretty much trial and error, tried and true. Some of the recipes in the cookbook, and if you haven't tried it, do the corn dodgers in there and do the hardtack. And the hardtack was back to the 1800s with the U.S. Army. And if you're not familiar with hardtack, it's like a saltine cracker that gets extremely hard over time as it cools down. When it cools down, it is really great for soups and stews. And you will find that the kids really like that. The corn dodgers. If you've never seen John Wayne's movie, and it's the classic thing. And the movie where what's her name, Kim Darby, is looking at him, and he hands her a corn dodger, and she looks at it, and he was just in a shootout or whatever, and she's looking at it, and he goes, "You want a corn dodger?" And she looks at it, and she goes, "Well, there's blood on it." And he looks at it, and he goes, "Well, not all of it." And then he end up seeing them take the things and throwing them in the air, and he shoots them like they're playing skeet. Corn dodgers are something that the scouts can carry if you're going to take a hike. It's going to keep them sustained until you can get them to that next meal. They're pretty nutritious. They're easy to make. You can turn them really easily into hush puppies if they're deep fried, and add a little bit of onion to them and stuff. So there's a lot of things. What do you guys think about this? Did you like the pumpkin stew?
Yes. I haven't heard. Well, she wasn't there, I don't think.
Help yourself if you want some more.
I never would have ever thought to cook in a pumpkin.
Right.
Never. I mean, you'd think everything would just go away. Yeah, just.
Well, you know, and it's something that I would say that the Native Americans may have done if they had the pumpkins. The Africans certainly have. You know, they've done that because of necessity. You know, and to be able to do something like that.
Oh, God damn it.
And you can do that in your conventional oven if you put a cookie sheet or a baking pan underneath it. And you can actually bring it out to the table on the trivet, set it there, scoop it right out of the pumpkin. This is becoming one of my favorites right here, and I've only cooked that 3 times in the pumpkin. And it's just so much fun to watch it because you think it's not doing anything, and you stir it up and stir it up and stir it up, and it doesn't seem to ever get hot. That is one thing that you really got to kind of keep the lid on it, you know, for it to cook. But then all of a sudden, when it's ready, it's ready.
How long do you say it takes when sitting in that pumpkin dish?
That pumpkin we started about 8 o'clock, and it was just getting hot enough.
I didn't know what to do on a car. You know what I mean?
Right after lunch
That's a
break.
nice
A good 4 hours on.
4 to 6.
Yeah.
So
And
that thing was really insulate good that it takes a while.
well, it does, and if you look at it, there is so much liquid in the pumpkin shell itself.
Send money.
That,
Depends
you know,
how thick your pumpkin is, too.
If you look at the pumpkin itself, and the outside is getting pretty scorched and blistered right now. This recipe right here is banana bread. There's no nuts in it. That is super easy for even a Tiger Scout to make on his own. The hardest thing about that was actually dicing up the banana. It takes 4 bananas that you mash up, and the 5th banana you dice into cubes. And then you fold that into the dough. You pour it into a pan and you let it bake away until it's done. And you can turn it. These were made into like a brownie pan, little square loaves, and you can cut them apart and have little sample sizes. Like if you want to do a continental breakfast on a morning where you got to break camp right away, and you can do that sort of stuff. The Outhouse pudding is the first time introduction this year. Show of hands, was it worth having?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? You like it? It's a diabetic nightmare, I got to tell you. Because number one, we used pure maple syrup that came from Camp Bear Puck, which Pure maple syrup is pure maple syrup, but it seems to be a little extra special when it comes from a scout camp. I think that does that where nobody else does it in the country. But adding that and with the other ingredients, now if you wanted to change that up, you could put in some apple pie filling or maybe some cherry pie filling, and you can experiment around with it. This is a sugar cinnamon donut gem that was used as, instead of using the bread for the bread pudding part of it, you could use pumpkin donuts if they're in season. You can make your own. If you want to use blueberry donuts or...
Wrap some foil on it, set it on the coals.
you could do it that way or do it in a pan, and I just use it in an oven. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about that. If you're looking for camp cookware, if you're going to be in one place for a while, obviously you're definitely not going to want to backpack that anywhere. The 2-burner Explorer stoves by Camp Chef, they have a 3-burner one out that's really good. Is worth its weight in gold if you ever get caught out in bad weather and you can't cook over coals or campfire. This is a great backup source. They are pretty fuel efficient. If you have both burners going, I mean, you could burn out a 20-pound tank of propane in probably a weekend. Camp Kitchen makes this little propane stove right here. I fell in love with it. First time I used it, it was 14 below. It doesn't retain heat. I mean, it's not insulated all that well. But the first time I used it outside, it was 14 below, and within 45 minutes, it was already at 450 degrees Fahrenheit.
Who makes that?
That one happens to be Camp Kitchen. And Coleman has one that'll fit on the propane top that collapses down to about 4 inches, which is right over here. I'm not real thrilled. It's not what they used to be. This was the old reflector oven, if you remember years back. I'm probably about the only one that can really remember that far back. But it would sit on a fire grate, and the heat would be received through the bottom. And then it would radiate the heat through the interior of the oven. I'm going to play around with that one yet. I haven't really found a great way of doing anything in that yet. Coleman's propane camp stove right here is probably one of the best ones on the market for novice cooks. If you want Cub Scouts to learn how to cook, you can really regulate the burner and you can let them take their time and do stuff slowly and progress up to something that's a little bit more advanced. They will experience more joy out of cooking on something like that than using a jet boil. Jet boils are very unforgiving for somebody that doesn't really know what they're doing with cooking. A lot of these recipes we've come up with through time were resulting from comments like that the Scouts are only going to have hamburgers, hot dogs, and brats and beans for meals. And I know of a unit that wanted to be a backpacking unit where everything that they ever ate when they went to camp, because all the kids had to have a jet boil, was ramen noodles. That was breakfast, lunch, dinner, evening snack. I can't do ramen noodles for
That's
every
not healthy.
single
That's
meal.
just starch.
And
salt.
It's just quick, convenient, and it's not very filling in my book. The squash stuffed with fruit cocktail, pumpkin dinner, whether it's pumpkin vegetable soup or the stew cooked in a pumpkin, and they go home and tell mom and dad that, you know, at camp I got to. He tried to poison me. You know what he fed me? You know, the kids come home. The first thing that they say is, you know, I got to shoot a gun on the rifle range. You know, when it's of that age, and mom and dad raise their eyebrows like, you did what?
Are you into the guys from Green Bay?
And wait a minute, I didn't sign into that, but that's what they did. Or
When Keith says,
about shooting a gun, that was not that guy that shot 14 times at the dog, because our scouts would have hit that dog. Did you see that?
Heard about it.
14 times he shot that dog and he never hit him, but he hit the car, the house, and everything else.
That's ridiculous.
You know, I mean, it just didn't make sense. Of course, he's looking to 16 or 18 years now, but
Yeah, you know, so when they come home and then they tell mom that here they had jambalaya couscous, and Ben can attest to this, and I'm not lying, that his unit had a guy who went through Scouts. He's an Eagle Scout. He worked as a camp cook at Bear Paw and became one of the leaders in his unit that would do gourmet stuff for the kids at camp. Cream brulee French toast was on the order for breakfast on occasion, and it was never just plain old run-of-the-mill French toast. And it was jambalaya couscous, and it was all kinds of things. And things are, you can make anything you want at camp if you use the right preparation, you think it in advance. There's nothing wrong with taking chicken breast or fish or pork to camp, as long as you take the preparations to keep it properly chilled. You know, you got to make sure that you have plenty of ice. If I were to bring chicken or pork into camp and it's in the summertime, I'm going to make sure that it's frozen before I pack it and that it stays super cold. And then that would probably be one of the first meals, just to get rid of it, so that there is no issue of it ever getting to the point where you're going to have issues with bacteria and having it go bad. One of the helpful tips, and I'll give this to you as a freebie, is are you aware that you can freeze eggs, raw eggs? And you can do it by cracking the egg, and you can put it into an ice cube tray, and you freeze it that way. And even if you want, if you're creative, you can actually have them freeze solid like that, and being that they're in their individual egg little cup on an ice tray, you can actually break them off, and you'll have your individual serving of egg. And then all you have to do is let it thaw out, and you can use it that way.
I was advised that you should break the yolk though and stir
Right.
it up.
That works the best. Now, a lot of these recipes that we've used here, we've used a combination of just the regular chicken egg, but a lot of the recipes that we've had here, and I'll ask if you can figure out which ones they were. Some of them were using the egg substitute, like egg beaters, or the what is it, the egg in the milk jug or whatever it is. Anybody have a guess as to which was made with real eggs and which ones were out of the carton?
Just to have a guess, I'm gonna say this one was with the egg beaters.
That was with the real eggs.
Was it? I didn't try any of them. It was just probably more convenience.
This one was used with the egg substitute. It's got to the point that these products now, if you look at it and you're kind of looking at, like, you know, powdered milk and things, they've perfected them so much more, and a lot of it I think has to do with the backpackers wanting the stuff dehydrated or freeze dried, and that they can just add the water. And I mean, it used to be that, you know, when you look at some of these mixes and stuff and you add water and it looks like just kind of a paste that you really don't want to eat, that doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. A lot of these products now are really quite tasty, and if you take your time and cook with them, they are a great additional source to help get a meal into the boys when you have to do something on short notice, like on a Friday night when you got to set up camp. Give them something quick, but you've got something that's sustainable for them for breakfast. Is a great way to go. I like the stuff that's in the carton just for the fact that you're not having to worry about breakage of eggs. You know, and there's a lot of ways you can get around that by cracking the eggs and putting them in a plastic bottle and sealing it up and stuff. And I don't want to mess around with that. So everything is real basic, toxic dump. Nothing's really precise. Nothing's that difficult. Most of the prep time, I think the most difficult thing for us to cook was probably the pumpkin. And the time constraint on that took the longest was actually cleaning the pumpkin out to the point where you want to use it without the strings and the seeds. I mean, if that's a long time to you, well, then maybe you don't want to do that. But to me, that's minimal. There are other things that I've seen made where they tell you it takes an hour prep time or whatever. That's too long, especially when you're in the field. But if you could do something like that, or rattle this stuff off in 5-10 minutes and have it on the fire and going, that takes less time away from paying attention to your scouts or enjoying your event. The last thing that you want to do as a leader, and the last thing your boys want to do as scouts, is sit around and mess around for hours to cook when they'd rather be back on the trail or down at the waterfront or messing around with their friends. So get them out there and do basic things. Take your potatoes here. You want to do a breakfast bake? Take one of these potatoes, cut the top third off, hollow it out, put your scrambled egg mixture in there with some leftover vegetables from the night before, put the cap back on the top of the potato, wrap it tight in foil, and throw it on the hot coals and let it go. And then just eat the whole thing. I mean, that's pretty foolproof for people. And if you're worried about the kids digging out the cavity on that, bring a bunch of melon ballers as part of your camp equipment, and they just scoop it out, save the interior of what you scoop out of there, and use that for the lunch, and leave it sit in a pot of cold water so that the potatoes don't turn black.
Okay, I gotta ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever cooked eggs and bacon in a paper bag over?
Yes, I have, and we were going to do that, but dang it! But
No, just making up stuff.
I forgot to pack bags.
we have it in the I Really Hate Dishes cookbook. That
You have it in there?
not in this one, but we're going to have it in the next one. It's in a work in progress. If you want to do bacon and eggs in a bag, what you have to do is take your strips of bacon, rub it in the bottom of the paper bag to get the interior nice and greasy, and you're going to do the bottom and all four sides of the bag. Lay your bacon strips on the bottom, crack your egg on top, seal the bag over 2-3 times, run a stick through the top of the bag to keep it closed, and then hold it over the hot coals and toast it like you would a marshmallow. Now it's going to take a while for that to cook through, but you will not burn up the bag provided you don't let the flames touch the paper bag. So you're going to want to make sure it's over hot coals, and you want to put it at a height that you get the heat, but you're not going to start burning up the bag. And it does work, and it works well. And then when you're done and when it's ready to go, all you have to do is fold the bag back open and hand them the bag and a fork or a spoon and tell them to carefully eat it out. Now the bacon will crisp or cook through, but it won't be cooked crisp where when you bite into it, it shatters or it won't be crispy like that. Another great way of doing bacon over the campfire for the kids is find themselves a green stick. And this isn't long enough, and you're going to prop it, and you can have them do a pioneering project where you put 2 stakes in the ground, have them lash a green stick across the campfire, and they drape the bacon over the top of the stick and let the heat cook it that way. Now when that cooks that way, the bacon will be U-shaped. If they don't want that, then you put 2 sticks and separate them a little further apart, and then you have a wider U. That's also a great way to toast your tortillas. If you're bringing soft shell tortillas and you want to do a taco thing at the campfire, you can do it the same way as the tortillas toast over the campfire. They will get hard just like a crispy chip. And that's something you can do with a stick. Make sure you use the right sticks though. You don't want to use anything that might be toxic like poison
Or treated
pine.
wood.
Oh, yeah.
Or find something with, but like if you use, oak, apple, cherry wood, even if it starts to smoke up a little bit, the smoke flavors from the apple or the cherry wood is only going to impart a little bit of that fruit flavor to whatever you're roasting like that. Anybody have any questions?
How much are your cookbooks?
Cookbooks are $35, and $5 is going to the International Scout Program to help them equip their scouts with uniforms and camp gear that they can't afford. I've been involved with International Scouting for 5-6 years. I do an internet radio show on Scouting Radio.
9.
9 years now. Time flies. And we broadcast to 35 different countries, and we talk about scouting and what other scout groups from other countries do, and we compare and contrast things.
Bring it over here.
There are scout units in Africa, and I'm not picking on the continent of Africa, but the scouts can't afford a uniform. They can't even afford to join the International Scouting Organization. So basically, when they want to have a meeting, the leader will typically grab a walking stick or something that they can hold, and the kids know that the leader is calling a meeting because he will walk the village or the town holding a stick high over his head like this, and then he will walk 20 yards, stop, and spin the stick in the midair. And then he will put the stick down to the ground like that and stand and wait. And then all of the scouts will flock in to wherever he happens to be standing, and they have their meeting. Now, they don't have the uniform, they don't have the awards, they don't have the tents, and they may not have the equipment to do what our scouts do. But I have found that these scouts can run circles around some of our Eagle Scouts with their campcraft skills with orienteering and everything, and a lot of it has to do without a necessity. A lot of the African scouts learn to be very quick because some of the animals.
Some of the animals are quicker.
And they have a saying in the Ghana Scout organization that you don't have to be a fast runner.
No,
You just have to be faster than the guy behind you.
that's it.
And that's it. And they will do things, and they don't understand that they don't have the uniform, they don't understand that they have the badges, but they do understand the program, and they can understand the value of what scouting teaches them in everyday life. The Israeli Scout Group has a group called the Tizofim. They're a musical scout group that teaches about world peace, and they have created a program where they actually will take kids in areas where they're having battles and fights, and they will take them out of that, put them into a camp where they're not allowed to talk religion or politics, and oftentimes they're literally sleeping with the enemy. And they're taught team building skills, and at the last day they'll say, oh, so-and-so is from over here where you've been fighting for the last 40, 50 years, and you guys got along well together. Now why can't the rest of the world? Go back, tell your friends to come to this camp, but don't tell them what they're going to do. And then they go back, and they're single-handedly with this organization taking kids out of a faction that might draw them into a terrorist organization. And so if we can help that, further that cause with the programs that we do offer, that's all the better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed the day. Make sure you fill out your surveys. We can improve on the program.
I have none of the room, I assume.